Good evening and welcome once again to Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggin. So glad to have you here tonight. Want to do a quick shout out for you guys that are joining us live. For those of you that are watching this post its live date, welcome to the show. I hope you find everything here to be informative and fun at the same time. So let's see who's joining us tonight. I see Anthony, Eugene, Dale, BN Green 1970. Are You a Train Man 2? Ronald, Dale, Randall, Robert. Let's see, Bradley, Anessa, Amy, Dale, and Donnie. Want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. We're going to be talking a little bit of N scale, and we're also going to be talking about some HO roundhouse items. I want to throw out a couple of quick reminders for you here tonight as a programming note. Last night, I had the developers from Athearn here with me live to talk about the California and the California 2 cars. John Stackpole, the lead developer here at Athearn, and Janik Bringle, one of our researchers and developers, spent about an hour with me last night talking about the California cars. If you did not get a chance to see this live, go on over to our YouTube channel and check out this live interactive Q&A session we had. And it's an incredible video if you want to see the behind the scenes of how our developers work up these new models and build these new models. A lot of detail, 25 LEDs alone in these California cars. So if you've been on the fence about these, you owe it to yourself to go ahead and take a look at that video. Like I said, it's on our YouTube channel. And take a look at it, and you have until Friday, the 29th this week, to get your last pre-orders in. And before you know it, this month will be over. Another round of shout outs. I see Derek is in the audience. Chad, Chessie Railfan, Randall. Let's see, Derek, Jason, Kevin, Joseph. A lot of folks joining us here tonight. I want to welcome you all, and let's get started. So let's do what we always do. Let's go ahead and get comfortable in that workshop chair, put down the hobby knife, and grab the beverage of your choice, and let's get started. We're going to start talking about Genesis. Not just any Genesis, though. We're going to be talking about Athearn Genesis N. Now, a little background on these. These are the first time we've offered these in Genesis N. These are ACF 2970 covered hoppers. As you probably know, two-bay covered hoppers first entered service around the 1950s. The cars handle loads such as cement, sand, and similar dense bulk commodities. Now, by the 1960s, American Car and Foundry had introduced the center flow design, which you see here. The car's rounded body provided structural strength without the added weight of bracing. Now, this also made it making the gravity feed unloading process that much easier. Now, this two-bay car came in a 2,970 cubic foot capacity. And that's the subject of these Genesis N scale cars. Now, we'll go into the details on these in just a moment, but let's take a look at what we're offering. Now, the first car you see here, this is CSX 220634 as it appeared in 1989. These are based on cars that they received from lines that have been merged throughout the years. So there's going to be subtle differences, and we're going to see some of those subtle differences here in a second. If you look carefully, look to see where your warning labels are, look to see where the layout of the logo and lettering is when we go to the next car. Very subtle. I'll switch those back again so you can see. Very subtle, but since these are Genesis models and they are prototype specific to the actual road number, the researchers have made sure that these are going to be accurate to the actual prototype. Now, we're offering these in two singles. You can buy each one of these cars as a single that you see here. We're also offering them in a 3-car set. And of course, the road numbers in the 3-car set all the road numbers are different. So you have the possibility of having 5 distinct road numbers within that road. So 1989 CSX. On to the next batch, we have the ACF leasing. Now this car here, this car is as it appeared in the 1970s, pretty much early 1970s. Again, we're going to offer these as 2 distinct singles as well as a 3-pack. Now, if you N-scale guys out there, whether you have a home layout or a Fremo setup that you occasionally set up, if you've got any type of operations where you've got sand, silica, cement, anything like that, a big industry, you're going to want to stock up on these depending on what era you're modeling. These are 1970s. Now, for you 1980 guys, we've got the Burlington Northern again, available as a single and available as this 3-pack. So 2 different singles and the 3-pack, all distinctive, different road numbers. These are very common for you 1980s guys. Going back into the Wayback Machine, possibly the same cars, but in a different era. We're talking 1966 here. This is the CB&Q. This was among the last order of ACF cars that they would order before going on down the road in 1970 to become Burlington Northern. Striking, simple paint scheme, but still a striking paint scheme. And don't worry, BN fans, if you're modeling into the 70s, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having these on your roster. A lot of Burlington freight cars, as well as the other predecessor roads, didn't get a full repaint till much, much later. Here's one that you may or may not have seen. This is the Corning Glass Company. Really a neat setup. These were actual cars that came out in the 1970s for the business that you see here, Corning Glass. We're offering these in 2 distinct singles as well as a 3-pack. So if you wanted to have a industry in glass, this would be perfect for you. Last but not least, we have the Mopac. This is a 1979 car, so late 70s, very late 70s. But for you guys that are modeling N-scale in the 1980s, this is right in your wheelhouse. So a couple of features that I want to talk about these cars, because we've not offered these before in the Genesis line. These cars have been updated to Genesis standards, and in order to make them Genesis standards, what we've added, and you can't see from this artwork, but this is what's going to be added to the finished models. All of these are going to feature rubber trainline hoses, just like the HO scale versions. They're also going to have separately applied cut levers. And in the case of the Burlington Northern and the CSX, they're going to have lower shelf McHenry couplers, something that you don't see in N-scale. Now, some of the other features that are beneficial to a Genesis item, all the roof walks are photo etched. All of the grab irons, the brake piping, all of that detail, it is not molded on. It is actually separate pieces. So again, much like an HO model, all of that fine detail is there. All of the underbodies on these is fully detailed. And for operational ability, they have body-mounted McHenry scale knuckle couplers. They're also already weighted to the NMRA standard. Now, since these are short cars, even though they have all of that great scale goodness to them, they will run on a minimum radius of 11 inches. So these are new. They've been recently updated to Genesis standards. We've offered them in the past, but not quite as many features, not as many scale details as what we're offering now. So let's go out there into the comments and questions, see if anybody's got questions on these ACF Genesis cars in N scale. Yeah, there's a lot of detail to these N-scale cars, and we realize it's not for everybody, but we also see a trend of N-scalers that are doing a lot more in operations and a lot more. Um, they're demanding the same scale, prototypical details that they see in HO. So um, there's some guys out there that are really into that. Now, for you guys that maybe run more of a modular type layout. We've got something for you towards the end of the show. I'll show you those in a little bit. Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, we've been working really hard on these cars. And the research alone, actually adding the details and such, sure, there's some engineering challenges. Any developer will tell you that, especially in a car this size. But the research is the biggest one because remember, with Genesis, we want to be accurate to the actual road number as well. Patrick wants to know, will the HO version of these 2970s get updated to Genesis quality someday? We are looking forward to upgrading a lot of items in our inventory to Genesis. I can't say definitively we'll do that at a certain date, but I will say it's a possibility that we will at least entertain that or come up with something that would be Genesis quality for that car. Thanks, Dale. Yes, we don't want to forget our N scale guys. There's two of us on staff that are N scale guys, myself and John. And it's a scale that's getting a lot more momentum in the last few years. And if you think about it, with some of us that don't have a lot of room, N scale definitely does have its advantages. All right. So, coming up next, we're going to be talking a little bit about Roundhouse. We've got some Roundhouse items to talk about tonight, and something we haven't offered in quite a while. So these are the Roundhouse 34-foot, sometimes called War Emergency or 2-bay composite coal hoppers. Now, if you're not familiar with these composite side hoppers are also called the War Emergency Composite Hopper. The reason being is this was a standard war production board design introduced in 1942. The hopper sides and the end slope sheets were constructed of wood instead of steel. And if you know anything about World War II, you'll know that steel was a very valuable commodity. And in order to preserve the vital steel supplies for the war effort, these cars were made from wood. So, yes, into the 30s, a lot of these hoppers were being made from steel, but because of the war effort, um, they switched, they kind of pivoted, and they went back to a wood composite design because coal was still very popular. It was a heating source for a lot of homes across the country at that time, and of course, power plants and so on. Now, we're offering these as just a 3-car set. The first one you see here is for the Santa Fe, and these are all for that 1942 to 1945 era. So for you HO scale steam guys, these are perfect to add to your fleet. You'll see that the road numbers here, I'll call out the Santa Fe ones, 180620 as your top one, 180666, followed by 180781. They're all different road numbers. So by buying that set, you basically get 3 distinct freight cars. Coming up next, we have the CB&Q. It's a good month to be a CB&Q modeler. We'll talk a little bit more about some updates we have on another freight car. Again, 3 available in that set. They're not being sold as singles this time. They're just being sold as a set. For the East Coast modelers, we've got the Baltimore and Ohio. We've also got the Chesapeake in Ohio. The nickel plate, of course, we had to add that in there as well. And then last but not least, the Virginian. Now these, again, these are Roundhouse models. They're HO scale. They're going to have nice crisp detailing, but they are not going to have the level of detail that you would see with an Athearn HO or a Genesis HO. They're going to have molded on detail. And so these are perfect for a couple of different modelers, whether it be the younger modeler that's getting into the hobby, or if you're somebody that likes to do a lot of prototype operations but doesn't want to risk the details getting broken off when you have, say, an open house or an op meet at your house. Another thing too these are great for is you guys that do modular shows. These cars transport really easily. You don't have to worry about the small details falling off. And especially if you're going to set up your Fremo or some type of HO scale modular setup with the public, these travel well and they handle extremely well. Now they all feature a removable coal load. All of them will have the body-mounted McHenry couplers. Another nice improvement on these, 33-inch machine metal wheels. Those will operate on all different types of HO scale track. And of course, they are weighted to NMRA standards. And since they are Roundhouse, they're perfectly happy running on a minimum radius of 15 inches. So pretty nice little radius there. All right, let's see if there's any questions on the Roundhouse models. Let's see. Terry wants to comment. He says 40s through the transition era modelers can do a lot with these. Yeah, that's true. We try to come out with items each month that is a nice wide range. We want to make sure that everybody has got something that they can look forward to. Eugene's happy about the B&O. Kevin's excited about the C&O, the nickel plate, and the Virginian. Very good. Out of my era, but I'll still buy them. That's good to hear. Yes, you could, Tim. That's a good point. You can use these for maintenance away in the 70s, sometimes in the 80s. It's surprising. You'd have to do some research to double check. But yeah, these cars, they soldiered on throughout the 50s and 60s. Certainly, maintenance away into the 70s would not be out of the question. These would go well with the RS3s that we announced earlier. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of the roads that we feature for the Alco RS3, and don't forget that has sound now, would be appropriate. All right. Let's switch scales again. Let's go back to N scale. And this is going to be on the Athearn line. Now these are Pullman standard PS2 2893 covered hoppers. Now Pullman standard dominated the covered hopper industry beginning in the 1950s thanks to the design success of this PS2 series of covered hoppers. Now they were designed to carry bulk commodities such as grain, cement, and plastic pellets, just to name a few. Now, these cars roamed all of North America for decades, attesting to the utilitarian function. And I'm sure you've seen these. If you do any kind of rail fanning and such, I'm sure you've seen these. Earlier in the show, I saw some comments, some folks asking for more chassis. Well, here you go. We're offering these in the Athearn N scale. And we're not going to give you just one chassis. We're going to give you 3 different versions of chassis. So here's the first one, 2052, based on an early 1980s paint scheme. This one lettered for the Chesapeake and Ohio. Now, did you see the variation? Chassis would have some variations because these came from their predecessor roads. Let's go back. Keep your eye on the logo here. Keep your eye on Chessie the cat and see where he goes to the next car. This one is centered. This one is offset. This one here still has its ACI panel from the 1970s. It's got its COTS wheel dot on the right in this area here. Also for, lettered for the Chesapeake and Ohio. And then the last car in the series is lettered for the Baltimore and Ohio. Now we're going to be offering these Athearn N scale cars as singles. They're going to come in 3 different road numbers. Chessie guys, I have a feeling you're going to want to order all 3 of these. Now this next one I want to talk about is where the internet and our social media is so important to us, especially in the research realm. At the beginning of the month, we offered the CB&Q PS2 covered hopper in both HO and N scale. Now in the HO, it's going to be under the Genesis line, so it's going to be a full detail car. And in the N scale world, it is the Athearn. So we'll talk about the details in a little bit. Originally, this is what we showed you for the artwork. And a lot of you CB&Q fans contacted us and said, I don't think I've ever seen one of these in revenue service. And granted, that was well over 60, 70 years ago. If you look carefully, the build date on this is 1954. Well, we did reach out to the Burlington Route Historical Society, and we talked with a couple of members and had them look in their archives. Basically, what you see here, the top illustration is based on a Pullman standard publicity photo. It was one that, as far as the historians at the CB&Q Historical Society can tell, never really roamed the rails in this paint scheme, at least not in revenue service. So thankfully, with the help of our friends at the Burlington Route Historical Society, they provided us with colors, markings, and as you can see here, here's an image. It was provided to us by the Burlington Route Historical Society. And so these cars, if you were to order these cars now, they will come in an oxide red and they will have the layout that you see here. So it's very similar to the gray. However, it'll be an oxide red. And that's what makes doing the modeling and nowadays so much easier. With the CB&Q fans contacting us online, contacting our product suggestion email, and helping us out, we were able to deliver this car accurately. So again, this is going to be available in 3 different road numbers, and it's going to be as delivered. So the picture you see there, the actual prototype picture, that's years down the road. It's going to appear as that car right there when it was new. So you guys that are modeling CB&Q in the late 50s into the 60s, here you go. Coming up next, this is a colorful car, and it caught a lot of people's eyes. Grupo Cementos Mexicanos, late 1980s. Really colorful car. And again, offered in 3 different road numbers. Milwaukee Road fans, you won't be disappointed with this. This is a 1957 on up Milwaukee Road car. Again, we're offering it in 3 different road numbers. And last but not least, for you SP and Cotton Belt fans, we've got the Southern Pacific. Really sharp looking paint scheme. This is a 1960s era paint scheme. So for you guys that are modeling SP in the 60s, and of course these lasted well into the 70s, maybe even the 80s in this paint scheme. And then of course the Cotton Belt. A little bit earlier paint scheme, not by much though. You're looking at a 1955 era paint scheme. These would have lasted like this well into the 60s. So let's talk a little bit about the features of these cars. Each one of these cars has separately applied round roof hatches, a brake wheel assembly, walkway, separately applied outlets, and detailed braces. Again, something that we've done with all of our N-scale items, body-mounted McHenry operating scale couplers. be just fine. And the N scale guys, you've gotten back to us and said, body mounted just works so much better, especially in an operations environment. All of these will have metal wheel sets, and they will operate, I can tell you from experience, they will operate on code 40 all the way up to any type of sectional track that's designed for N scale. Minimum radius on these is 11 inches. So you don't have to have a giant layout to operate these. So there you have it. That is the end of what we have for this month. Let's see if we've got some questions on the last N scale round. Terry's thinking of the HO Genesis ones, but yes, they will look great with those Jeeps that came out last year. Absolutely. Steven is commenting the Mexican 3-bay PS2 is probably of the later style with all sides ribs identical. Athearn's making both types of these cars. It's very good. We're glad that you like that, Steven. We're seeing an increase of folks demanding more south of the border freight cars and locomotives, and we're more than happy to help you guys out. Let's see what else we've got here. Delta 9 is happy with that CB&Q hopper. Yeah, it's going to look great. Thanks again to the Burlington Route Historical Society for working with our researchers. We do appreciate it. If you are a fan of the CB&Q like myself, be sure to check out their website. Joining the Historical Society is super easy, and it's a wealth of information. And really the newsletter that they put out is just top-notch printing. So if you have any interest in the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, consider joining their historical society. All right. Harold's happy with the chassis system. Yes, I knew you guys would be. Chassis usually has a very loyal group of followers. All right, so a few programming notes before we go with a few questions and close out the evening. You have until Friday, the 29th, which is just a few days away, to place your last pre-orders. Your pre-orders will be due at the time of your hobby shop closing that night. Now, don't forget, we've got the Genesis UP cabooses that we talked about at the beginning of the month. We've also got the California cars, both California cars and California 2 cars. Those are going to sell out quick. So to avoid disappointment next year, go ahead and get your pre-orders in this Friday. Of course, if you've forgotten of anything else, there's a couple of things you can do. You can go to the Athearn website and select the new announcements banner. And that will take you through everything that you can order this month before the deadline. Also, you can go to our YouTube channel and check out previous Train Tuesdays where we cover these freight cars and locomotives in more detail. And do me a favor, while you're over there, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, like the video, and hit the bell. And that way you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. And lately we've been doing a lot of videos. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it. And the other programming information I have for you is this Friday. Myself and Mark will be in St. Louis, and we will be at the St. Louis RPM meet. Now, if you've never been to this, it is probably one of the bigger prototype meets in the country. You are guaranteed to see some absolutely phenomenal modeling, top shelf modeling, and not just locomotives and freight cars, but even motor vehicles and layouts. So I highly recommend, if you're in the area, to check that out. It's Friday and Saturday this week. We will be there. We'll have some new things that we have not shown yet that will be at the show for you to look at. We'd love to talk to you. And while you're at it, maybe give our switching layout a try. We're going to have a special thank you for that. And of course, we'll have this Friday, we're going to have the announcement for August. Any teasers for Friday, Jim? Off the top of my head, I don't think I have any teasers. I can tell you this. We are going to offer a locomotive that we have offered before in the Genesis series, but we're going to offer it in a road that we have not done before and a paint scheme that is from 2022. Very new. So there you have it. Terry wants to know, Janix showed off the pre-production models of the next round of Jeeps, including the KO and G. When are they expected for delivery? Those are expected much later in the year. If I want to use my memory correctly, I want to say late November. We've had a couple of pictures go out on social media that the guys in development have posted for us. So those are the ones that are going to be coming out in late November. BN Green 1970 says, Jim, how is the GP7 poll going? I know I'm hoping the UP branch line unit makes a release, whenever that will be. Well, thank you for your input. From time to time, we will release models that we've released in the past, but we want to do road names that we haven't necessarily done in the past. And sometimes we like to update those models with features that have not been available before. But we always like to hear your input. So a few weeks ago, we sent out a survey, and there was a number of railroads that we chose based on those of you that had sent in suggestions through our product suggestion email. And that poll was up for about 2 weeks. And I think the researchers now are digging into those models. I think you guys will be pleased. I don't have a date exactly when we're going to announce those, but it will be soon. Cole Newsom's got a laundry list of ideas here. He says, hey, Athearn, any suggestions? Maybe do Genesis 2.0 new model HO scale AC6000. Different variations of the CSX paint schemes. Also, Unipacific renumber series 6900 to 7000 and 7500 number series. Well, these are all great suggestions, Cole. If you've not been here before, I'm going to tell you, and everybody else is listening, is go to our website, go to the Contact Us page, and look down there. You're going to see an email. It is Athearn-product-suggestions@athearn.com, and that's where you can put those suggestions. And we do read them. We don't reply to them just because we get so many of those, but that does help us with our new projects. Although right now, I can tell you the developers, they've got a full plate right now with California cars and AC 4400s and some refinements. So it might be a little bit, but go ahead and put those in there. Train fan, I saw you last night, and I know you said this earlier. I think it's safe to say that will probably be in a future release. Which release, I don't know. There's a certain guy on staff that spends a lot of time in Illinois that has a lot of pictures of those. So there may be a chance that we can get those in the future. SD70 ACU second run. Yes, we hear you. There's a lot of you guys asking for those. They're coming. They are coming. Yes, sir, Mr. Frost. We are announcing the August releases on Friday. So be sure to watch your social media. Friday at 3 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, we will do the August announcements. Everything that goes up on the Athearn website at 8 o'clock Central in the morning is open for you to pre-order, and you also have a narrow window to get anything that you saw this past month pre-ordered with your hobby shop. All right, we've got time for maybe one or two more questions, and then I'm going to let you get back to it. Anthony wants to know, Jim, where we send our pictures of our layouts with your products in use. Well, we don't have an actual email for that, mainly because we'd probably be inundated and I'd never get a chance to go through all those pictures. Currently, what I do is I search social media. You can definitely send something through social media, and I will sometimes share those posts of your work across our social platforms. And once in a while, we will do a contest. There is a special contest email. And depending on what that contest is, you would send your pictures there. But we don't really have a dedicated email system for that type of pictures. All right. Terry wants to know if there's any more container chassis, all sizes, please. Terry, I think you'll be happy by Friday's announcement. Stay tuned for that. Let's see. Any other last questions? All right. Anthony's going to close us out with, I pre-ordered Surfliner cars, even though I model Northeast Corridor layout, New Jersey Transit, Amtrak. Well, thank you, Anthony. I do appreciate your order. Yeah, we're excited about those too. You know, I grew up on the East Coast. I've never seen these cars in person, but I'm probably going to order as well, just because it's unlike anything we've done before. And like I said, go over to our YouTube channel, check out the Q&A session with John and Janik. It will definitely impress you with the amount of development and research that's been done on these particular cars. We're going to end up with Amy wants to know, how about Atlanta next month? It has a big train show in August and January. You need to talk to us in the Southeast. Well, we're pretty limited on our train shows. We try to hit the big ones. Now, of course, the national moves from city to city. We do one on the East Coast. We do one in the Midwest. Depending on where the nationals are, we do that one. That could be in the West, the Southeast, any of those places. But if you have a suggestion, let us know. We'll look into it. And if we can fit it into our schedule for 2023, we might just see you there. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight on Train Tuesday. Remember, you have until Friday the 29th to place your pre-orders. So talk to your dealer today, whether it be by phone, email, or in person. Do that before the 29th. And again, we will be here Friday at 3 o'clock with the August announcements. And if you're in the St. Louis area, stop into Collinsville, stop into the St. Louis RPM meet, see a lot of great models, hear a lot of great clinics, and most of all, stop by the booth and say hi to myself and Mark. We'd love to talk to you. And just all in all, have a great week until I talk to you again. Until next time, everybody, be happy, be healthy, be safe, and above all, high greens, everyone. Good night.